Ship communication. Shipboard communication is discussed as it applies to computer networking between the ships and the shore facilities at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. Different communication links are considered, including satellites and VHF radio. Marine communication involves ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore communication. In the early half of the last century, ships began outfitting vessels with radios that could communicate distress signals between other ships, as well as to those on shores. The importance of communication on board. Appropriate communication on the vessel will not only make it safer and maintain an amicable attitude amongst crew, but will also make daily life more pleasant. The types of communication on board ships. Three major communication types includes verbal, written, and non-verbal communication, meaning signals and signs. One can never overestimate the importance of having a good communication for the safety of navigation and ships handling at all times. Means of communication on board ships. As in all workplaces, the ability of the crew persons of a coastal vessel to contribute to effective communication and teamwork is pivotal to smooth running and safe operations. Communication of ship at sea. Communication at sea involves the transfer of intelligence or information between various points at sea or shore. Ship to shore and ship to ship communication. The way to communicate is possible by sound or visual signaling and by radio or electronic communication. Radio telecommunication at sea had undergone a sea change in the last century. After the days of the semaphores and flags, which is still relevant today in some cases, radio brought about a drastic change in marine communication at sea. From the early years of the last century, ships started fitting radio for communicating distress signals among themselves and with the shore. Radio telegraphy using Morse code was used in the early part of the 20th century for marine communication. In the 70s, after considering the studies of the International Telecommunication Union, IMO brought about a system where ship-to-ship or ship-to-shore communication was put into action with some degree of automation, wherein a skilled radio officer keeping 24/7 watch was not required. Marine communication between ships or with the shore was carried with the help of onboard systems through shore stations, and even satellites, while ship-to-ship communication was brought about by VHF radio, digital selective calling or DSC, came up with the digitally remote control commands to transmit or receive distress alert, urgent or safety calls, or routine priority messages. DSC controllers can now be integrated with the VHF radio as per SOLAS, Safety of Life at Sea Convention. Satellite services, as opposed to terrestrial communication services, need, need the help of geostationary satellites for transmitting and receiving signals, where the range of the offshore station cannot reach. These marine communication services are provided by Inmarsat, a commercial company, and Cospas Sarsat, a multinational government-funded agency. All oceans are covered with HF marine communication services for which the IMO requires to have two coast stations per ocean region. Today, almost all ships are fitted with Satellite Terminal for Ship Security Alert System or SSAS, and for long-range identification and tracking as per SOLAS requirements. On distress, search and rescue operations from Maritime Rescue Coordination Centers are carried out among other methods. With the help of most of these marine navigation tools, naturally, The sea has become a lot safer with these gadgets and other important navigation tools recommended by the IMO as enrichments in GMDSS. How to communicate from ship to ship. The primary working channel for ship-to-ship communication is Channel 6. In fact, the radio regulation requires all maritime band VHF radios to be capable of transmitting and receiving on both Channel 16 and Channel 6. This would be the minimum channels available on a maritime VHS set. By converting sound waves into radio waves, ships could send information across vast stretches of ocean to communicate with their allies. They would then decode the radio waves back into sound waves and listen to the message they had received. Internal communication on a shipboard. Internal communications on a ship today would would be by either portable radios, regular ship phone, or what is known as the sound power phone. Say the chief engineer was having some problems. He may pick up the regular telephone in the engine control room and call the bridge. Arrangements could then be made to slow down or stop the ship. If there was a complete failure of the ship's electrical system, the regular phone system may not work. Critical locations on the ship, like the emergency generator room or the steering gear room, always have a powered phone that doesn't depend upon the ship's electrical system for proper operation. Internal communication between someone on the bridge and someone in another critical situation. Portable radio typically would be used by someone out on the deck needing to talk to someone on the bridge. During an anchoring operation, the chief mate would typically be on the bow using a portable radio to coordinate with the captain on the bridge. On a lot of ships, a portable radio doesn't work the best when you are down deep in cargo space. Cell phones won't work at all out at sea because there is no cell phone towers in the middle of the ocean. Satellite phones will work at sea, but you must be outside the ship, so wouldn't work very well for internal communication.
Marine communication involves ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore communication. Over the years, the ways in which seamen communicate has been changed drastically. Back in the day, simpers and plugs were a primary form of communication for ship out and at Asia. Radio brought about drastic change in the marine communication and greatly improved the safety of everyone involved. In the early half of the last century, ships began outfitting vessels with a radio that should communicate distress signals between another ships, as well as to those on shore. In the early half of the 20th century, Morse code has utilized for marine communication. By the time the 70s rolled around, a greater deal of research and truth had gone into it. After assessing the International Telephonic Telecommunication Union eh, at studies, IMO developed ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore communication. At this point, a radio officer has no longer necessary to keep watch at all hours of the day and night. Marine communication has addressed through the use of unfound systems. We assure station, stations and stateless radio mode ship-to-ship communication are really and shortly their director digital selective calling allowed for greater digital selection calling allowed for greater communication capabilities including remote control commands that could transmit and receive distress signal, place your urgent safety calls, and put out route time message. Today, controllers are often entered with the radio in line with updates regarding SOLAS, safety of life at Asia requirements. These are variety of radio communication systems that must be graded on. These represent ships that are around 20 to 30 nautical miles from the coast and are therefore covered by at least one coast radio station, thus following for constant alerting. The equipment used in this Asia includes VHF and DSC along with a Navtex receiver. This requirements represent any area that is over 400 nautical miles away from the shore. In practice, is also measured 100 nautical miles offshore, but those not includes actually the equipment used is area includes along with radio, telephone, as well as the equipments needed for Asia. These are excludes but with Sweden heating falls with 70 degrees north and 70 degrees south. Latitude this area allows for continuous alerting. The equipment used this Asia includes a high weather radio and or along with all equipments. This account for all Asia located outside Generally speaking, this includes the polar reunion north and south of 70 degree of landslide. Equipment used in this area include of the military communication equipment along this radio service. All words ocean are covered by marine communication service. It is required by IMO. I know that there are two concentration for one orientation most ships to find the stated third terminal for ship security alerts system as well as for tracking and long range identification the marine navigation tools muted about the to us with search to research operation from marine research coordination centers. The goal is always keep South Asia as safe as possible. As Highland wireless your maritime communication consulting division can provide everything needed for ship communications. That work will make you look good. We are evolved to do this with great flexibility and very competitive pricing. This forest start from the holding research to inform you of what all your options are under all digits from design to delivery and destination optimization grow training and contain maintenance trust with wells for all of your communication needs.